Hello, everyone, and welcome to Gearing Up. This is the podcast about everyday carry. Sometimes we talk about life, gear, whatever. Normally, I'm doing this with my wife, or sometimes I'll do it by myself. But today, I'm joined by a very, very special guest, man that needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyways. Mr. Jonathan McNees. How are you today, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm this embracing the quarantine life and trying to make the most of it. So thank you so much for taking some time to jump on today. I wanted to chat with you. I'm sort of a newer McNees fanboy. You know that I've got my McBee that I post pretty much every day because I absolutely love the thing.
Oh, yeah.
But you've been doing this for a while, so I wanted to. I'm excited to have the chance to just kind of sit down and chat with you and talk about your story and how McNees Custom Knives came to be. So
Yeah, man. Well, first, thank you for having me on before I forget to.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean,
I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. I know you're busy, and anybody that follows you on Instagram should know that you're busy. I mean, your stories, you're always posting stuff from the shop or putting in some work on the weight bench. So it's cool for you to take out some time and chat. So for those that are new to the show, or if you're just now listening in, so I have done a few episodes like this where I jump on and chat with a maker, and really the idea is to kind of just get some backstory and kind of what makes you tick and things like that. So I wanted to start off with just a quick tell me a little bit about yourself, like an abbreviated bio for those that maybe don't know you or know your work.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Pretty simple and straightforward, honestly. I grew up in Mississippi, Alabama, kind of moved back and forth a couple of times there, and just a country boy. I always loved my parents were both kind of do-it-yourself kind of people. We did a lot of gardening. My mom sewed and did some of that kind of stuff. My dad did woodworking. So just kind of had the do-it-yourself that and not having a ton of money. It was, kind of necessary to do a lot of do-it-yourself stuff. So just kind of grew up with that mindset. And as far as the actual knives, man, I mean, like a lot of you guys, I've pretty much just loved knives as long as I can remember. Like literally,
Right.
I couldn't tell you exactly how old I was when I got my first knife and stuff. But I mean, at my age and living in the deep South, like it wasn't really that big of a deal for a kid to have a knife. So so it was probably pretty young, I can tell you. So yeah, I've just always loved them. I've always probably loved them a little more than. Like pretty much every country boy at least likes knives.
The average person, yeah.
I was always kind of the knife guy out of my group of friends and stuff that just really loved them. But yeah, that just progressed for years. I mean, I was just the typical guy that I didn't know that much about. I knew almost virtually nothing about custom knives. It was pretty much just the typical, a case knife was a line and that kind of thing. And so honestly, I was in my 30s before I really kind of discovered the custom knife world. So kind of a late bloomer when it came to that kind of stuff, but always had the itch to try my hand at making a knife, but I really didn't know that people did what I do now. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was like somebody maybe took an old file and put a deer antler handle on, like that was kind of my image of what it was. I mean, I had no idea that this world existed. So,
yeah,
I guess it was probably around 2006, 2007, I ventured into the online world of the knife forums, and that got me.
Oh yeah, that's.
I started seeing all the stuff out there. I found Badland forums first. Started seeing the Striders and stuff, and that just blew my mind. I was like, I'd never seen knives like that. And then to start finding out that people were actually making those and not just being pumped out in the factory and stuff, I was like, whoa,
yeah.
Now this is. I think I might have found what I like here. So
yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's pretty much it. That then just a pretty short jump from there to diving in.
Yeah, so I'm always fascinated by that, and I've spoken with a few other makers, I always love hearing that story of kind of that itch, and then that first knife and that second knife, and then you kind of go through the ins and outs, and so what was, you don't have to go super detailed, but what was that transition like of hey, these are really cool, to I'm gonna do this, to now I'm doing this? Like, what was that? I mean, what was the toughest part of that, and kind of walk me through that.
Well, honestly, I was just kind of one of those things. Like I said, I kind of had always, for years, I had thought that I'm going to try making a knife. And I'd even had like the little cheap Harbor Freight. Actually, I don't think it was Harbor Freight. It was from like some tool sale. Little 4x36, I think. Little
Mm-hmm.
super cheap grinder with a little disc grinder on the side of it. The main reason I bought that was with the intention of, at some point, I had no idea. I mean, I didn't even know what a 2x72 grinder was at that point. This was pre forums. So, I mean, I had no idea what people use or anything. I just knew I needed something to grind a knife on. So anyway, I had that and stuck it in my little old shop that I had at the time with just, one day I'm going to make a knife on that. And then had found a piece of steel, which I'm sure was mild steel. I had no idea what kind of steel to use for making knives or anything. I know I had a chunk of steel that remotely resembled something you could cut a knife out of that I'd gotten a hold of somewhere. It was stuck back in a corner in the garage. So that there was kind of the ingredients, or at least in my mind, the plan was kind of coming together. But then the forums, like I said, that pushed me over the edge. I was like, oh, people are really actually like just doing this in their garages and stuff. So that was about the same time we moved into a new house, and I knew I wanted to shop just in general because I just, like I said, kind of a do-it-yourself kind of dude. So, and the knife making thing was still kind of there in the back of my mind. So basically, we moved into the house. I was able to build a shop pretty much right after we moved in. And not too long after that was when I was getting deep into the looking on the forums and stuff and all, and I'm starting to learn then, and just soaking up all the knowledge I could get from the
Absolutely.
forums. Ordered a couple of books and stuff then, and then just one day I told my wife. She laughs about it now because I told her, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back here and try to make a knife, and like and then the
Just
next
like
thing you know,
that.
I'm coming up with some, I mean, it was awful. Like, I mean, not even.
But at the time, it's like, whoa, this is
Oh yeah,
really a
like, I
thing.
can do this. Like, yeah, wow, like I can actually do something that, you know, at least looks something like a knife. Like, yeah, so I did. Went back, ground out a couple, and the first couple I ground out were on that stupid little 4x36 thing. They were
Mm-hmm.
god awful. They were made out of mild steel because I still didn't even know what kind of steel to get. That's how kind of suddenly I jumped into it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and then pretty quickly got a couple of fire bricks to try to do my own little heat treating with it. Trying to heat treat mild steel again, having no idea that was even an impossible task. And
Right.
so yeah, it was pretty bad. But then from there though, I started, then the learning curve kicked in. I started getting into it more and more, learning actually what kind of steel to get, what kind of grinders people were using, and things like that. And so I didn't have or wasn't willing to spend a lot of money on just going out and buying a bunch of equipment. So I actually built a Franken grinder. U.S.
Nice.
Knife Maker had these plans. I don't know if they still have them or not. They had a plans that they would sell for a no weld grinder. It was basically where you kind of bolt the pieces together. And I basically took that as a rough draft and made a Franken grinder out of. It was a combination of wood and metal, and the base
Wow.
was a little 6-inch bench grinder, but it had a variable speed knob on it, which was, I thought, awesome at the time.
Right.
I could at least slow it down. So I had this. It started out as like a 2x48. I ended up converting it into a 2x40. A 2x72. It was so crazy underpowered. I had a plastic lawnmower wheel that I bought at Lowe's, stuck on that bench grinder as a drive wheel for the belt. Everything just completely homemade. And man, I probably ground a few hundred knives on that thing.
Man, but that is so cool to hear. Just that drive to just keep creating and keep learning and keep kind of honing in on the craft and kind of doing it by any means necessary. I mean, That's awesome to hear. I
Once
love
once the
that.
bug bit me, man, it was no stopping. Like there, I was going to make knives. That was just all there was to it. So but I also was ever since the very beginning. I've also tried to look at it as even before I probably should have been. Really, I was trying to look at it as a business. Like
Sure.
I didn't want to. I didn't really look at it as a hobby. Like in other words, I wasn't willing to go out and oh, I like doing this. I'm going to go buy I'm going to go spend $3,000 on a grinder and stuff. No, I waited until I kept making stuff and selling stuff and making stuff and selling stuff and taking the money and reinvesting it, until I got enough that I could buy a grinder with my business money, and without having to, just buy it out of pocket. So
Right.
literally built the business from the ground up like that, rather than, I mean, I'm sure there were times when I had to, give myself a little loan or whatever kind of thing, but
Right.
essentially I forced myself to make the business pay for itself rather than, just spend money on it as a hobby. And I think that's kind of helped me with kind of the longevity, maybe not that that's been that long yet, but like it started me off in that mindset of, like I've got to do this so I can buy this. And if I do
Right.
sell this many more knives, I can get this, and just kind of doing it like that more than a hobby. So that had that mindset from the very beginning.
Right on. So what was that? I was doing a little bit of digging before we jumped on, and if you look at your website, it said everything started like 2008, and I know you said you started kind of toying around 2006, 2007. What was that time frame like from tinkering in the garage to kind of a self-funded hobby or self-funded side business to now? I'm assuming that's what you do full time, right? Full time knife, and
Yeah.
to call you
Yeah.
full time knife maker is a bit of an understatement because you don't just do knives and stuff, and we'll get into that. But
Yeah.
but what was that timeline like from tinkering to full time knife maker?
No, I went several years before I was full time, but now, honestly, my wife would probably laugh if she heard you say tinker, because pretty much from that first day I went back there and said, "Hey, I'm going to go make a knife." Like I was like, she didn't see me. Like I was constantly in the shop. So at the time, my background is in physical therapy. I actually did home health physical
Okay.
therapy. But the way my job worked, it allowed me to. I would start as early in the morning as I could get patients to let me come. I would go
Hmm.
get all my patients seen, and I would come home, and then I would work for probably, sometimes I'd work 3 or 4 hours in the shop and be done, supper time or past before I'd leave the shop and come back to the house. And then I'd have paperwork I'd still have to finish up from my day job, to do all that. And so, like, I mean, and then almost all day, almost every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Like, I mean, so probably a minimum of 2 or 3 hours every afternoon, and usually probably more like 3 or 4 hours every afternoon. And almost every weekend, almost the whole weekend, and this was within probably the first couple of months of trying to grind my first knife. So,
Right.
so I dove in deep. And so I basically kept on that pace for, let's see, it was about 2008. And then my wife's my timeline keeper, because it all kind of blurs together on me. I meant to ask
Right.
before I got on here. I think I went full time in, I want to say 2015. So I've been full time since then. So between 2008 and 2015, I did what I was just describing, where I worked virtually every afternoon and every weekend. Honestly, I was probably working as many hours as a lot of full-time knife makers do now,
Right.
as a part-time job. So, and then, so my wife was actually the tipping point she's the one that pushed me to go full-time, which is
That's
probably
awesome.
backwards for a lot of people. Yeah, she's awesome. I could have never made it to this point without her support on that, because number one, she tolerated me working constantly. And so, my thing was, and this is probably where I may be a little different than a lot of the guys that, at least from what I've seen, a lot of guys are kind of like, as soon as they can get the chance to where they can make a little money at it, they're ready to go full time. Like they, like drop the other job and they're gone. But my outlook on it was always I was not willing to go full time doing this and quit my other job unless I knew I could make at least as much money doing this.
Right.
I wasn't willing to take a pay cut for my family just so I could do something that I liked doing for work.
Right.
So I, after 7 years, I guess it was there or so, I reached, I was making better stuff, being able to charge more prices. And it was actually at Blade Show one year. That year, I guess it was, I think it was 2014 at Blade Show, because I actually, I kind of planned it out, and my quitting my other job and all that. I think between Blade and the end of the year, because I basically made a clean break, and like January 1st, 2015 is when I was full time. So,
nice.
So that year at Blade, when we got down to set the table up, and there were already 2 or 3 people standing at the table, like ready to buy knives, like before the show even opened. I mean, any of you guys that go to Blade know how that whole deal kind of works.
Right.
I got there, and there was like 2 or 3 people standing at the table already waiting to buy knives before we even got the table set up. And so after that, later that day, at some point, my wife looked at me. She's like, "It's time. It's time."
It's a thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Easiest decision you've ever made, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it was easier for her than it was for me. Like, she had more confidence than I did, because again, I was totally nervous that, again, I didn't want to make the family sacrifice just so I could do something, for fun. So,
yeah.
So, which I think is part of what drives me to work the hours and stuff that I do now, because I love it, but it's also a business. So
yeah, absolutely. And speaking of family, it's kind of a great transition. You guys are a family business. I mean, if I understand correctly, like your wife handles a lot of the business side of things, and you have 2 sons, is that right?
No, a son and a daughter.
Son and a daughter. Okay.
You're probably thinking about Chase, who I show in the videos all the time. He's actually an employee.
Okay.
Or strictly an employee, I guess. I mean, he's got a good friend, but yeah, no, we're not actually related.
Okay. And so does your son work in the shop as well, or is it just Chase?
He does. Right this moment, with all this craziness going on, he is actually kind of taking a self-chosen hiatus. He works in the restaurant industry. So he's not full time with me. He normally only works like 2.5 hours every day in the morning before he goes into his other job. And since he was only normally working that many hours with me and stuff, it just worked out better for him right now, because he kind of got laid off from his other job. So he's taking a little hiatus for the next little bit till some of this starts to clear up, and then. But my daughter has kind of stepped in the meantime, because she was gone to college. So her last year of high school, she actually worked with me a good bit, doing a lot of the laser work in the shop in the afternoons and stuff, and during the summer. So, but of course, she's home from school with all the craziness going on. So while she's doing her online classes, and she's also helping me and taking care of most of the shipping stuff and doing some stuff on the laser. So, so it kind of worked out that when he needed to step out, she was there to step in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's a good support system you got built in there. I like that. And I like hearing that. That's always super cool to hear, and God bless the wives, right? Because I hear a lot of, makers, especially when they're starting out, like the wives take care of so much stuff. And so it's awesome to hear that. So, jumping into changing gears just a little bit, I always try to ask a couple of carry questions for some of my, the makers that I'm talking to. And so I'm always curious, like, knife wise, what is your favorite knife to carry? Kind of what's your go-to?
Well, I mean, recently, for the past couple of months, I've been carrying it's actually a prototype, which almost nobody knows about yet. So nobody.
No, that's fine. No, whatever you want to share or not share, that's fine.
No, I can tell you about it. It's just that nobody will recognize it because nobody's seen it yet. So, but I honestly, until I built this prototype to kind of intentionally carry it, I'd carry a variety of production knives a lot. let's see, I carried one of the Strider collaborations with ProTech, the little
Right
key.
on, yeah.
I carried it a lot. I carried the big. I've got a lot of the times I like to carry it for some reason. I think just because I don't really make automatics, they appeal to me to like that's a lot of times where I end up buying stuff that I like. Because if I see something that's too similar to something I make, then I'm like, oh well, I can make that, or I mean, not
right.
like copy somebody's stuff, but like I want something that's I guess something that I can't that's different from what I do or whatever. A lot of times, so I'll kind of find myself carrying an automatic, or I like the ZT 0300.
Okay.
It's just I've got one of those a buddy gifted me, and so I've got one of the Boker I can't think of the actual name of it. The collaboration with Zero Knives with my Ram, that's got some emotional significance to it that my wife actually bought me after he passed. She actually bought me the production model after he passed. I carry it sometimes. So, things like that. But
yeah.
Right now I'm carrying a prototype for a one that I've got coming out that's I've alluded to it a little bit on some of my videos and stuff, with some of my live videos.
Right.
I guess I can go ahead and kind of break it here on your
listen, I appreciate it.
It's essentially going now. The one I'm carrying is a full handmade prototype, but it's essentially going to be kind of a semi-production type of deal that we've got coming. That we've already started getting parts, so we should be having something to show here within the next month, hopefully.
Nice.
So I won't go into too much detail about it, but it's going to be 100% made in the U.S. And
nice.
All the finished out stuff will be done in our shop and everything. So and so I'm trying to get something that I can offer that's short of the full production, but or short of the full handmade, so I can keep the costs down and more people can carry stuff, try to kind of hit in that range with the.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that sounds amazing. I can't wait to see it. And I'm just, and again, personally, this is a big deal for me because I'm a big fan. And this kind of segues into the McBee, which I want to talk about here shortly. But, I don't know that I had ever heard of McNees or anything until the Spyderco collab came out, the McBee. And I'm trying to remember who I saw it with first. Slugger O'Toole, Ryan, he has one, the teal one with his copper wash blade, like that one, always eye catching. But
yeah,
I saw it, and it's definitely a unique design, and it's definitely it's a smaller blade, obviously, and so when I saw it, I was like, I don't know if that's for me, and I made the decision a while back to kind of consolidate my collection and really just kind of nail down, like, I just want a decent knife to use every day. And I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but I prefer smaller blades anyways. And I had reached out to you because I know you had done some laser work for, I think it was Urban EDC that I saw you had done it for.
Yeah.
And for the little micro patches. And so I reached out to say, hey, could you do some patches for me? And just working with you, I was like, man, this guy's great. I want to support him however I can. And that's when the McBee became my personal carry choice. And so again, huge fan, but I wanted to talk about the McBee collab with Spyderco and what that process was like.
Okay.
In a nutshell, so my first question is, who contacts who? Like, did you reach out to Spyderco wanting to make some kind of collab, or did they reach out to you, or how does that work?
Well, now I think different companies do it differently, and
sure.
And I don't know about every collaboration like that Spyderco does, if it's always done the same. But in my case, so I think I've designed the bee in I think we've narrowed it down to somewhere around 2012. And so I kind of, for 2 or 3 years, I just kind of kept thinking, oh man, this would be a great Spyderco design. Like I wish they'd notice it and contact me and reach out. So anyway, long story short, they never did. And I was talking to somebody and they basically kind of gave me a nudge. And I'm like, dude, don't wait. Just reach out to them. Don't, be more proactive. And so I did. I basically just looked on their website, found an email, reached out and told them what I was wanting. They told me who to contact, built a prototype. Well, I say prototype. I mean, I've been making the thing for 3 or 4 years at that point, but I built a prototype for them. I built one to send in a sample, I guess you would say, more than a prototype. Sent that in to them. And then with them, at least, man, it's a long process. Like, I think from the time I sent them the sample to the time that it was, I think, about a year and a half before I got the green light and they said, hey, yeah, we want to, see about doing this.
Yeah.
And then by the time it actually hit shelves, I think it was more like something like 2 years from the time I prototype. So, which is, I mean, they told me up front. I mean, they kind of explained the process, and I got to say, man, Spyderco has been phenomenal. I knew they were kind of like my absolute top pick of somebody to do a collaboration with, and so I was just beyond happy that it worked out, and they've been great. They've been super to me, and I like how much that they support the military and the first responders and stuff. So they've been a great company to work with. But yeah, so I reached out to them. They did, you probably familiar with how they kind of do their stuff. They take samples like that around to all the different venues, all the different shows that they do, and let people check it out and get feedback, and that kind of helps them decide on whether they're going to, go ahead with the collaboration or not and stuff. So, and they even do it with their own designs too, I think. So, yeah, that's why the process takes so long, because they take it around all the different venues and get feedback. So,
absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, and it's also, production wise, like, I'm sure that there's a lot that goes into that.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's cool. I definitely wanted some insight on that. I always thought it was really neat seeing makers collaborate, and again, kind of, what you alluded to earlier, just keeping costs down and stuff like that. Not everybody can afford a handmade custom, so having the ability to grab something that your favorite maker makes, or a design you really like, and be able to keep it reasonable price wise is awesome. And again, that helps your brand grow. I mean, honestly, like I said, I had never seen McNees until I saw the McBee, and then now I want a custom McBee. But anyways, we'll get there later. But speaking of, and again, I hate to dwell on just one of your knife designs, but
that's fine.
You said you've been doing it since about 2012. I mean, what was your design, not inspiration, but I guess inspiration. Yeah. I mean, like, what drove you to make such a small folder?
That's an easy one. So it's pretty much within, like, I guess as soon as I started making stuff that actually looked decent, like a knife, actually probably even before they looked decent, to be honest. Pretty much since I started, every year for their birthday, I make my kids each a knife for their birthday. And so that year I'd made a couple of other folder models and stuff. I was getting into folders pretty heavy, and I wanted to make a folder for my daughter for her birthday. And so she would have been like 11 that year, I think. And so she was still pretty small. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to try to design a little small folder that will, be cool for her, kind of fit her hands better and stuff. And then it was also kind of a design challenge for myself. Like, I basically wanted to see how small, because like I said, I'd made a couple of folders, and the other ones were, one of them, the first one I did was actually my F-Muck. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's a big, beefy, like big overbuilt folders were really in at that time. And so it was a big, beefy, chunky thing. And I'd done the Dixon, which is a little more normal size carry. And so I was like, all right, I want to do something. I want to see how small I can go and still make it. But the parameters I kind of set for myself were that I wanted it to still function and work and have all the same features, more or less, as a full size knife. Like, I wanted a regular, albeit short, maybe a little funky looking. I wanted a regular blade. I didn't want to have to do like I didn't want to sacrifice anything just for size. In other words, I wanted to take a big knife and shrink it down. Which turned out to be a pretty good challenge, but I
imagine, yeah.
Just to make everything fit and everything, and just not a lot of real estate, and then to make it functional, and to make it functional as a one-handed opener, really, which the spider hole was perfect for that. So that's kind of a lot of the reason that ended up on that knife. It was I'm a big fan of it anyway, but like to do that small of a knife and make it a one-handed opener, it kind of was just perfect for it. So anyway, so long story short, yeah, I designed it for my wife, my daughter for her birthday that year.
Wow.
And just
That's
wanted
awesome.
to see how small I could make it.
I love it. That to me is awesome, and that's a cool story, and I love hearing kind of the inspiration behind designs and how they came to be. So, um, any other? I mean, so and again, to whatever extent you can or want to share, do you have any other collaborations in the works? With other big companies or with other makers or anything like that.
Um, Not really. To be honest with you, I haven't sought out really anything else. I've talked to a couple of other companies and stuff, but like when it came
Mm-hmm.
down to it, I really kind of plan on sticking with Spyderco. Like, not that you
Sure.
couldn't necessarily do both. I just, I've only got so much, you know, so many irons in the fire at one time. So
Right.
right now, I've kind of got, sticking with them, and I might, or I don't guess there's necessarily any secret on their end about it. But I might or might not have submitted a Dixon to them to see if maybe they might decide they want to do something with it. Of course, I'm sure this all the shows getting shut down and delayed is probably going to delay the process of it
Right.
going through the cycle that I mentioned earlier. So, but yeah, I'm working on that. Absolutely no idea, if it will actually happen. But hey, if some of your listeners
Listen,
and
Spyderco,
tell them
yeah.
that,
If
I
you're
mean,
listening,
can't
we're
hurt.
we're in. We'll take
There
it.
you go. Can't hurt.
Awesome. So, I wanted to kind of pivot to your Instagram account, and one of the reasons why I followed along and why I continue to follow along and why I continue to support you are absolutely one of my favorite accounts to follow just for your stories. Um, whether it's motivating folks to get to working out, or shenanigans in the shop, or just a quick message of, hey, go do something nice, like that. Especially now more than ever, like that's an important message and that's an important thing to see. I mean, what not where do you get that from, but like what was, I don't know. I guess I don't know how to ask it. I guess my question
I
is
kind of
really
know what
like,
you're getting
where
at.
does that positivity come from? I mean, what drives you to come into work every day? I mean, obviously you've talked a lot about your family, so I'm sure that that's a big chunk of it. But where
Mhm.
did that tone or vibe for your account come from?
Well, so you probably wouldn't have noticed it since you haven't been following me that long, but like honestly, like for the people who have been following me for years, they probably noticed a pretty big shift in the way I did things. And I don't know, it's probably been a year and a half ago, maybe. I just, I kind of looked at myself one day and realized that, and I've always just been a pretty positive person, and I will talk your head off if you get to talking to me. But I've always had a tendency to, for whatever reason, just since I was a kid, to be a little on the shy side, a little on the, there's been times in my life when I didn't, because there's probably people, if they heard this, they'd be like, yeah, he ain't shy, uh, but for the most part, and I think I had kind of gotten stuck in this whole kind of weird image in my head of like what a knife maker was supposed to be, and because it kind, when I was on the forums and doing all this stuff, like it kind of seemed like a lot of the people were pretty aloof and just like they don't necessarily interact a whole lot with, at least not that's visible online.
Right.
I mean, they may be behind the scenes. I don't know what they're doing, but I just kind of had this image in my head of just that I just need to show my work and and be you know I don't know, just try to professional, I guess, or whatever, and
Yeah.
not to, but I don't know. I just kind of had a realization, like I said, a year and a half ago or so. I was like, it's like I'm just kind of tired of. It's not that I wasn't being myself. I just wasn't letting everybody see all of myself.
Right.
I was kind of holding back and being, like more trying to be more professional and stuff. And I don't know. I finally just decided I reached a point. I was like, you know what? Like, I think part of it too is I've been working stuck in my shop. I say stuck. I mean, it's a blessing to be able to do it, but you know, it's like, I mean, and you hear other knife makers, we all joke about it. I mean, we're basically like hermits, you know, stuck in our shop. Yeah. This is before I had anybody working with me or anything. So like, it was just, you know, you're very social distancing. We're like social distancing champions as knife.
Right. The pioneers of social distancing.
Absolutely. So anyway, it just kind of, when I finally just kind of reached the point I snapped and I was like, you know, like I can actually interact with people on here and, you know, and do that. And that way, at least I'm not just stuck back here by myself. I'm actually getting some human interaction, even if it is just, you know, digitally or whatever. But so anyway, so I just decided to screw it. Like, I don't care, you know, what people think or whatever, as far as, you know, being embarrassed. I was like, I'm just going to start being myself and, you know, hopefully people like it. And if they don't, hopefully they don't dislike it enough to just, you know, to just not buy my products. So I just kind of started being myself. And then once I started doing it, it was so much fun. It kind of snowballed.
Like, what have I not been doing this for so long for? Right.
Right. I was like, oh, this is a blast. Now I have to be careful because I'll be like, oh, we gotta make a video. And I have to make sure I don't take too much time away from the actual work to do the videos and stuff.
No, but that's great.
Probably what you would hear me say the most in the shop almost every time. Not every video. I mean, some of them I take a little more serious time, but like the goofy ones or the crazy ones out on my story or otherwise, like I'll post it and pretty much 9 times out of 10, I'll just look at myself or at Chase and be like, I'm an idiot. I know it. It's fine. I don't care. It's just
whatever you're doing works. I mean, and like I said, it's just, it's refreshing. It is nice. Cause yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I've, you know, it makes me think of, I did an actual sit down interview in person, a while back with a knife maker in the Houston area, where I'm at, and his name is Paul Lusk. And he talked about that too, that idea of like a knife maker image of, you know, don't talk to anybody, I'm angry, you know. And it's like, yeah. You know, and he was like, I don't have time for that. Like, I'm just here to make good stuff. And, you know, and one of the things that I've seen knife makers and other makers in the community, I mean, that's the common denominator is having a great attitude and having great interaction. And yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, drive and talent and all of those things kind of for the hobby, but as from the business side and the social side, you know, I mean, that's what drives a lot of these accounts. So
yeah. And you've heard people say for years, people buy the maker, not the knife or whatever, but then the makers are all grumpy assholes. Like, I mean, not all, you know what I'm saying? Like, but that's, I mean,
I know what you mean.
It is like, that's the common, you know, I mean, and I can tell it because of how people approach me online and stuff. Like, somebody will shoot me a DM and like, and it's getting better. I mean, people are starting to see that I'm more approachable because of, you know, they see my stuff, but like, you can tell people, it's almost like they're coming kind of hat in hand, like, you know, oh, Mr. McNees, you know, I'm sorry to bother you, but
sorry for the, yeah.
Who like bit your head off? Because like, you have to, like, yeah, like you don't have to be, you know, like nervous or whatever. Like, you're not bothering me. It's, you know, that's what I'm here for. Without you guys, I can't do this. So
listen, I'm guilty of that too. I've done that with makers in the past where I'm like, you know, and sometimes it's just out of respect, and I know you're busy or whatever, but I think you do such a great job of just being a presence on, you know, on the stories and on your feed and stuff, that you definitely seem approachable. So I think that's a good thing.
That's definitely something I try to get across.
You know, one thing I wanted to, again, not to shift gears so abruptly again, but I wanted to talk about some of the stuff outside of knives that you've been making. And one of the things, again, that kind of drew me to your site, you've been doing a lot of laser work and a lot of odds and ends. It's weird to say that, but like, you can jump on your site and do a face mask and a Zippo and a handkerchief and a pen, or not a pen.
Don't worry, it's going to get more diversified every day. Don't worry.
You know, I've just got to say, I love seeing that, you know, and I think I've asked you this before, you know, what are the next big plans as far as like products? I mean, what's your goal and kind of where are you headed?
I'm still like I'm literally every day trying to not only trying to think of new products to add to the site, but actually working with people. That's one of the biggest challenges I've found, man. With like because so it's kind of twofold. So a lot of it is just the businessman in me. Like I want to do as much business as possible. So I can only sell so many knives. I can only make so many knives. So that there's only so much that I can do with that. So, I figured I might as well diversify and I love, I mean, just like all you guys, I love EDC stuff. So like, it's fun. Anything that kind of fits in that box, then, I mean, shoot, why not? I mean, am I not? And for years I let the whole, having an online retail site seemed like this big scary thing that was whatever, but like, and we're still trying to figure it out. We still make some mistakes every now and then, send somebody the wrong size shirt or something, but we always fix it. But yeah, it's like once you just kind of take the plunge and do it, it's like, and I kind of, the thing that always held me back too was the fact that I mean, yes, my wife helps me with stuff, but a lot of that actual stuff was kind of a one man show. So when I finally reached the point where I told myself that it was okay to hire somebody to do some of the stuff so that, it makes a huge difference when when you're willing to actually hire somebody and have somebody do some of that stuff so that you're still freed up to do, making the knives and doing some of the other stuff. It just allows you to do a whole lot more. I never could have done all this still just working by myself because I wouldn't have any time to make knives. So, yeah, and buying the laser was a big thing. And once I got it, of course, as soon as I got it, I was trying to figure out everything in the world that I could do.
Say, yeah,
create stuff with it and stuff.
Those titanium patches, those are it's such a cool idea, and the execution is awesome, and just a very, very cool product. So I'm always excited to see what you're going to crank out. And one thing that I'll say is I just like seeing you try things. There's a lot of makers that keep everything kind of under wraps, and not to say that you don't do that. Maybe you do have things going on that kind of aren't known yet, but if something sounds cool to you, it seems like you kind of just give it a go and throw it online and see what people think. And by that I mean, like the McNees that you've been doing like some custom laser work on the show side, like that to me, the Beskar ones, or the what's the other one you did recently with the
we did camo, we've done
like I just gotta say, like, that to me seems super cool that you've kind of gotten to the point where in terms of what you can do, hey, this sounds neat, let's just do it. And I don't know, I feel like that's working, and it's always cool to see. So again, that's another reason why I like following you, is there's always something new going on, or something exciting that you're trying out. So it's always cool to see.
Thank you. Yeah, I've gotten a lot better over the last couple of years at making decisions a lot faster and stuff. Like used to, I would have an idea floating around, and it might never get done, or it might take a couple of years to get it done, or But now I've kind of just gotten to the point where I'm like, let's do it, let's try it,
see if it'll work.
yeah, awesome. Absolutely. I mean, it's just you never know until you try it. So
yeah. Well, I don't have any. I mean, we've gone through all kinds of stuff. I don't have any other specific questions. Is there anything you want to talk about or say or anything like that? I mean, not to put you on the spot, but
no, that's fine. No, I mean, we kind of already covered the. I guess anything that I would kind of announce or whatever. I guess with the that we do have some semi-production stuff. I mean, actually, we may even be having some more. Some of it's still up in the air, to be honest with you. And I'm finding out really, really quickly why so many people don't go the totally made in the USA route, because it's not easy. But I do have, for sure, we've got some semi-production stuff coming, a folder, probably a fixed blade of sorts. That'll make more sense when you eventually see it.
Sure.
And then maybe some full production stuff, but still made in the U.S. And not a collaboration, but actually basically me having them made by OEM work.
Yeah.
Some of that is still up in the air, but for sure we've got some semi-production stuff coming. We've got constantly adding more stuff to the website. I'm actually getting set up now. I just bought a t-shirt press so we can start maybe more.
My wallet. No.
Yeah. So some of the, that's the problem you were talking about, like trying new ideas and stuff. That's exactly why I wanted to do that, because, when you've got to send off and commit to 10 or 15 minimum order kind of thing. And, it limits you being able to try different stuff as quickly. So I figured if I get my own t-shirt set up, then I can try and knock out one or two of a design and see if we like it. And, so yeah, got some other products coming for the website. Trying to think if there's anything I can particularly say. Not really. Some of them are still up in the air, and I don't want to say they're coming and it fall through. So
no, that's fine. That's fine.
I'm still kind of expanding into more, even more stuff that is basically that we just kind of carry, like other people's work and stuff, not necessarily something that we made or even necessarily a collaboration, but just kind of expanding the EDC side of the website. So
right on. Yeah, I'm excited.
One other thing I do want to mention, and because I don't know when this is going to air, but through the end of this month, we're still doing the giveaway on the website. So every $5 that people spend on the website, they get entered in for a chance to win that full dress Dixon that I keep showing.
That thing is gorgeous. Yeah. So if you guys are listening to this, go to the site. You can get. I was looking at it earlier. There's some stuff on there that's in like the $10 range. You can get a couple entries that way. So definitely.
And the guy that won the last time we did this, we gave away a full dress Micro Hawk, and I bought a beanie. One that was the only thing that he and he won the full dress Micro Hawk with that.
So I'm gonna go make a few purchases. So, one last question for you.
Yep.
Of all the knives you've made from start to now, is there one that sticks out as like a favorite or particularly challenging? I mean, I know you said that like designing the McBee was kind of its own challenge, but is there one single knife that really sticks out as a favorite or anything like that?
I mean, as far as like just the design and not the specific knife, I mean, I'd have to go with the McBee technically my custom version of it's called the Killer Bee.
Right.
They renamed it the McBee to be a little more PC for the masses with the Spyderco collab, but just because of the success and the backstory behind it, that I designed it for my daughter, and so that's made it extra cool that it's been successful. So that'd probably be my favorite design. As far as a particular knife, I don't know. I've never done anything too crazy wild. Like I don't get into a ton of like just weird, crazy builds. Done a couple over the years. I did a fixed blade that was called the Bone Daddy for a USN back on the forum days on the USN. We did a build off competition. Paired up and we had to document everything. And anyway, it was fun. It was a little different kind. It was a Bowie and a little different kind of construction than I normally do. So it was interesting. But yeah, it's design wise, I'll have to go with the Bee, and it's been good to me. So
good. All right. Well, Jonathan, thank you again for taking out time to chat. If you guys are new here, thank you. Be sure to subscribe to the show. The podcast is available anywhere you can listen to podcast. iTunes, Google, doesn't matter. Spotify, you can find it anywhere. So be sure to subscribe. And if you're new to Jonathan, go give him a follow on Instagram. Go check out his website. Get entered in to win that full dress Dixon. That thing is a sight to see for sure. Jonathan, thank you again. Appreciate you taking out the time.
Thanks to you guys. Anybody that's listened along long enough to listen to this redneck ramble on, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on and showing enough interest to have me on here, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys again for listening. We will talk to you very, very soon in the next episode. Have a good one. Peace.
Bye.